کنارم بودی بمان، تو در قلبم بودی بمان، تو مرا میفهمیدی بمان، تو مرا آرام میکردی بمان، فقط بمان، فقط بمان، فقط بمان. شاخ تلاجن سایه ها رنگ سیاهی و زن خستگانت را صندوقی فراهم، تو را من چشم در راهم، تو را من چشم در راهم. شبا هنگام در آن دم که بر جاده ها چون مرد ماران خفتگانم، در آن نوبت که بندد دست نیلوفر به پای سرو کوهی دانم، گرم یاد آوری آرد من از یادت نمی کاهم، تو را من چشم در راهم، تو را من چشم در راهم، تو را من چشم در راهم.
Good evening, everybody. I've got my cat. I know it's not quite the same because I can waggle my cat around. I thought I'm getting some serious competition with Saman and her cat. And this is actually the cat of my son from when he was a baby. So there you go. Today I have a cat too. I'm going to turn the music down.
Can't spend the day without you.
There we go. So welcome this evening to the reading of 1001 Nights by Joanna's Half Fire. I hope you are all very well this evening. And without further ado, I am going to start reading for you. And we are on the 269th night. Shahrazad said, "It has reached me, O auspicious king, that when Ala al-Din gave the antidote of Bang to King Joanna, far of the Husn Maryam, and he came to himself and found Ala al-Din and his daughter sitting on his breast. So he said to her, 'O my daughter, dost thou deal thus with me?' She answered, 'If I be indeed thy daughter, become a Muslim, even as I became a Muslimah. For the truth was shown to me, and I attested it, and the false, and I deserted it. I have submitted myself unto Allah, the Lord of the three worlds, and am pure of all faiths, contrary to that of al-Islam in this world and in the next world. Wherefore, if thou wilt become a Muslim, well and good. If not, thy death were better than thy life.' Ala al-Din also exhorted him to embrace the true faith, but he refused and was contumacious. So Ala al-Din drew a dagger and cut his throat from ear to ear. Then he wrote a scroll, setting forth what had happened, and laid it on the brow of the dead. After which they took what was light of load and weighty of worth, and turned from the palace and returned to the church. Here the princess drew forth the jewel, and placing her hand upon the facet where was figured a couch, rubbed it, and behold, a couch appeared before her, and she mounted upon it with Ala al-Din and his wife Zubaydah the lutist, saying, 'I conjure thee by the virtue of names and talisman and characters engraven on this jewel, rise up with us, O couch.' And it rose with them into the air and flew, till it came to a wadi wholly bare of growth, when the princess turned earthwards the facet on which the couch was figured, and it sank with them to the ground. Then she turned up the face whereupon was fashioned a pavilion, and tapping it said, 'Let a pavilion be pitched in this valley.' And there appeared a pavilion, wherein they seated themselves. Now this wadi was a deserted waste, without grass or water. So she turned a third face of the jewel towards the sky and said, 'By the virtue of the names of Allah, let trees upgrow here, and a river flow besides them.' And forthwith trees sprang up by their side, and ran a river splashing and dashing. And they made the ablution and prayed and drank of the stream. After which the princess turned up the three other facets till she came to the fourth, whereon was portrayed a table of food, and said, 'By the virtue of the names of Allah, let the table be spread.' And behold, there appeared before them a table, spread with all manner of rich meats, and they ate and drank and made merry, and were full of joy. Such was their case. But as regards Husn Maryam's father, his son went in to waken him, and found him slain, and seeing Ala al-Din's scroll, took it and read it, and readily understood it. Then he sought his sister, and finding her not, betook himself to the old woman in the church, of whom he inquired for her. But she said, "Oh, since yesterday I have not seen her." So he returned to the troops and cried out, saying, "To horse, ye horsemen!" Then he told them what had happened. So they mounted and rode after the fugitives till they drew near the pavilion. Presently, Husn Mariam arose and looked up and saw a cloud of dust which spread till it veiled the view. Then it lifted and flew, and lo, soon disclosed her brother and his troops, crying aloud, "Whither will you fly, and we on your track?" Then said she to Ala al-Din, "Are thy feet firm in fight?" And he replied, "Even as the stake in bran, I know not war nor battle, nor swords nor spears." So he pulled out the jewel and rubbed the fifth face, that on which were engraven a horse and his rider. And behold, straightway a cavalier appeared out of the desert, and ceased not to do battle with the pursuing host, and smite them with sword, till he routed them and put them to flight. Then the princess asked Ala al-Din, "Wilt thou go to Cairo or to Alexandria?" And he answered, "To Alexandria." So they mounted the couch, and she pronounced over it the conjuration, whereupon it set off with them, and in the twinkling of an eye brought them to Alexandria. They alighted without the city, and Ala al-Din hid the women in a cavern, whilst he went into Alexandria and fetched them out a clothing wherewith he covered them. Then he carried them to his shop, and leaving them in the ben, walked forth to fetch the morning meal. And behold, he met Calamity Ahmad, who chanced to be coming from Baghdad. He saw him in the street and received him with open arms, saluting him and welcoming him. Whereupon Ahmad al-Danaf gave him the good news of his son Aslan, and how he was now come to age of 20. And Ala al-Din in his turn told the captain of the guard all that had befallen him from first to last, whereat he marvelled with exceeding marvel. Then he brought him to his shop and sitting room, where they passed the night. And next day he sold his place of business and laid its price with other monies. Now, Ahmad al-Danaf had told him that the caliph sought him, but he said, "I am bound first for Cairo to salute my father and mother and the people of my house." So they all mounted the couch, and it carried them to Cairo, the God guarded, and here they alighted in the street called Yellow, where stood the house of Shams al-Din. Then Ala al-Din knocked at the door, and his mother said, "Who is at the door, now that we have lost our beloved for evermore?" He replied, "'Tis I, Ala al-Din." Whereupon they came down and embraced him. Then he sent his wives and baggage into the house, and entering himself with Ahmad al-Danaf, rested there 3 days, after which he was minded to set out for Baghdad. His father said, "Abide with me, my son." But he answered, "I cannot bear to be parted from my child Aslan." So he took his father and mother and fared forth to Baghdad. Now, when they came thither, Ahmad al-Danaf went to the caliph and gave him the glad tidings of Ala al-Din's arrival, and told him his story. Whereupon the king went forth to greet him, taking the youth Aslan, and they met and embraced each other. Then the commander of the faithful summoned the arch-thief Ahmad Kamakin and said to Ala al-Din, "Up and at thy foe." So he drew his sword and smote off Ahmad Kamakin's head. Then the Caliph held festival for Ala al-Din and, summoning the Qaris and witnesses, wrote the contract and married him to the princess Husn Mariam. And he went in into her and found her an unpierced pearl. Moreover, the Caliph made Aslan chief of the 60 and bestowed upon him his father sumptuous dresses of honour, and they abode in the enjoyment of all joys and joyance of life, till there came to them the destroyer of delights and the surrenderer of societies. But the tales of generous men are manifold, and amongst them is the story of Hatim of the tribe of Tay. It is told of Hatim of the tribe of Tay that when he died, they buried him on the toy of a mountain and set over his grave 2 troughs hewn of 2 rocks and stone girls with dishevelled hair. At the foot of the hill was a stream of running water, and when wayfarers camped there, they heard loud crying and keening in the night. And from dark till daybreak, I'm going to try and get this fire going, everybody. A little bit of oxygen death should hopefully make it right again. Let's see, now I just got smoke in my face. These logs aren't very good for burning, unfortunately. We don't know why, but we've been having problems with them non-stop. They just tend to smoke an awful lot and not burn very much. Right, let us begin again with the story, now that we have finished the story of Ala al-Din. Let us begin again with the story of Hatim of the tribe of Tay. It is told of Hatim of the tribe of the Tay that when he died, they buried him on top of a mountain and set over his grave 2 troughs hewn of 2 rocks and stone girls with dishevelled hair. At the foot of the hill was a stream of running water, and when the wayfarers camped there, they heard loud crying and keening in the night from the dark till daybreak. But they arose in the morning, and then they found nothing but the girls carved in stone. Now, when Zu al-Qura, king of Humya, going forth of his tribe, came to that valley, he halted to pass the night there. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. Now, when it was the 270th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Za al-Qura passed by the valley, he nighted there. And when he drew near the mountain, he heard the keening and said, 'What lamenting is that on yonder hill?' They answered him, saying, Verily, this be the tomb of Hatim al-Tayi, over which there are 2 troughs of stone, and stone figures of girls with dishevelled hair. And all who camp in this place by night hear this crying and keening. So he said jestingly, O Hatim of Tay, we are thy guests this night, and we are lank with hunger. Then sleep overcame him. But presently he awoke in a fright and cried out, saying, Help, O Arabs! Look to my beast! So they came to him, and finding his she-camel struggling and struck down, they stabbed her in the stomach and roasted her flesh and ate. Then they asked him what had happened, and he said, When I closed my eyes, I saw in my sleep Hatim of Tay, who rose to me sword in hand and cried, Thou comest to us, and we have nothing by us. Then he smote my she-camel with his sword, and she had surely died, even though ye had not come to her and slaughtered her. Now, when morning dawned, the king mounted the beast of one of his companions, and taking the owner up behind him, set out and fared on till midday, when they saw a man coming towards them, mounted on a camel and leading another, and said to him, Who art thou? He answered, I am Adi, son of Hatim of Tai. Where is Zu al-Qura, emir of Himyar? Replied they, Well, this is he. And he said to the prince, Take this she-camel in place of thy beast, which my father slaughtered for thee. Zu al-Qura, who told thee of this? And Adi answered, My father appeared to me in a dream last night and said to me, Haki Adi, Zu al-Qura, king of Himyar, sought the guest right of me, and I, having naught to give him, slaughtered his she-camel that he might eat. So do thou carry him a she-camel to ride, for I have nothing. And Zu al-Qura took her, marvelling at the generosity of Hatim al-Tai, alive and dead. And among instances of generosity is the tale of Man, the son of Zaidah. It is told of Man bin Zaidah that, being out one day a-chasing and a-hunting, he became athirst. But his men had no water with them. And while thus suffering, behold, 3 damsels met him, bearing 3 skins of water. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. So let us carry on, shall we, with the tale of Man, the son of Zaidah. Now, when it was the 271st night, she said, It has reached me, O auspicious king, that 3 girls met him, bearing 3 skins of water. So he begged drink of them, and they gave him to drink. Then he sought of his men somewhat to give the damsels, but they had no money. So he presented to each girl 10 golden piled arrows from his quiver. Whereupon, quoth one of them to her friend, well a day, these fashions pertain to none but man bin Zaydar. So let each one of us say somewhat of verse in his praise. Then quoth the first, he heads his arrows with piles of gold, and while shooting his foes is his bounty doled, affording the wounded a means of cure, and a sheet for the bidder beneath the mould. And quoth the second, a warrior showing such open hand, his boon all friends and all foes enfold. The pile of his arrows of all are made, so that battle his bounty may not withhold. And quoth the third, from that liberal hand on his foes he rains, shafts orate-headed and manifold, wherewith the hurt shall Troyans pay, and for slain the shrouds round their corpses sold. And there is also told a tale of Ma'an, son of Zaydar, and the Badawi. Now, Ma'an bin Zaydar went forth one day to the chase with his company, and they came upon a herd of gazelles. So they separated in pursuit, and Ma'an was left alone to chase one of them. When he had made prize of it, he alighted and slaughtered it. And as he was thus engaged, he espied a person coming forth out of the desert as on an ass. So he remounted, and riding up to the newcomer, saluted him and asked him, whence comest thou? Quoth he, I come from the land of Kuzau, where we have had 2 years of dearth. But this year it was a season of plenty, and I sowed early cucumbers. They came up before their time, so I gathered what seemed the best of them and set out to carry them to the Emir Ma'an bin Zaydar, because his well-known beneficence and notorious munificence. Asked Ma'an, how much dost thou hope to get of him? And the Badawi answered, well, 1,000 dinars. Quoth the Emir, what if he say, this is too much? Said the Badawi, well, then I will ask 500 dinars. And if he say, too much? Well, well then 300. And if he say yet too much? Well then 200. And if he say yet too much, then 100. And if he say yet too much, then 50. And if he say yet too much, then 30. And if he still say too much, asked Ma'an bin Zaydar, answered the Badawi, I will make my ass set his 4 feet in his honour's home and return to my people disappointed and empty-handed. So Ma'an laughed at him and urged his steed till he came up with his suit and returned to his palace, when he said to his chamberlain, and there come to thee a man with cucumbers and riding on an ass. Admit him to me. Presently up came the Badawi and was admitted to Ma'an's presence, but knew not the Emir for the man he had met in the desert, by reason of the gravity and majesty of his semblance, and the multitude of his eunuchs and attendants, for he was seated on his chair of estate, with his officers ranged in lines before him on either side. So he saluted him, and Ma'an said to him, "What bringeth thee, O brother of the Arabs?" Answered the Badawi, "I hoped in the Emir, and have brought him curly cucumbers out of season." Asked Ma'an, "And how much dost thou expect of us?" "Oh, 1,000 dinars," answered the Badawi. "This is far too much," quoth Ma'an. Quoth he, 500. Too much. Then 300. Too much. 200. Too much. 100. Too much. 50. Too much. At last, the Badawi came down to 30 dinars. But Ma'an still replied, "Too much." So the Badawi cried, "By Allah, the man who met me in the desert brought me bad luck, but I will not go lower than 30 dinars. Then the Emir laughed and said nothing, whereupon the wild Arab knew that it was he whom he had met and said, "O my lord, except thou bring the 30 dinars, see ye, there is the ass tied ready at the door, and here sits Ma'an, his honour, at home." So Ma'an laughed till he fell on his back, and calling his steward said to him, "Give him 1,000 dinars, and 500, and 300, and 200, and 100, and 50, and 30, and leave the ass tied up where he is." So the Arab, to his amazement, received 2,180 dinars. And Allah have mercy on them both, and all generous men. And I have also heard the tale, O auspicious king, a tale of the city of Labtate. Excuse me, I'm trying not to sneeze, but I could not. Bless me. It's the smoke. There's some smoke coming out from the fire. The city, no, I'm going to do it again. Excuse me, everybody. The city of Labtate. There was once a royal city in the land of Roum, called the city of Labtate, wherein stood a tower which was always shut. And whenever a king died and another king of the Greeks took the kingship after him, he set on the tower a new and strong lock, till there were 24 locks upon the gate, according to the number of the kings. After this time, there came to the throne a man who was not of the old royal house, and he had a mind to open these locks, that he might see what was within the tower. The grandees of his kingdom forbade him from this, and pressed him to desist, and reproved him, and blamed him. But he persisted, saying, "Needs must this place be opened." Then they offered him all that their hands possessed of monies and treasures and things of price, if he would but refrain. still. He would not be balked. And Scheherazade perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. So, dear friends, we finished the story of Allah al-Din. It was seen, look, here I am stroking my cat as well, just like some man. Only my cat can't answer back. That's the difference. So we finished the story of Allah al-Din and we were on to other stories. And if you want to find out what happens when that door becomes opened, because you know it's going to be opened tomorrow night under some man's watch. So make sure you tune in tomorrow night to find out what happens when that door gets opened. And my guess, knowing this book, is that something extraordinary is going to happen. And as they're all begging him not to open it, my guess is something potentially not very good is going to happen, because we do know there is a tendency in this book when somebody does something a little bit daring, things tend to go wrong. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe something absolutely fabulous is hidden behind that door. Dear friends, I wish you all a very, very beautiful rest of your night. Sweet dreams. Sleep well if you are just about to go to bed, as I am, as I have an early start tomorrow. Many blessings from me. And I wish you all a very, very good night. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. If you're in a country where, unfortunately, this thing is still running wild and rabid, then make sure you look after yourselves very well and mask up in big companies of people. We had elections today we had the outcome of the elections today in America, and Joe Biden was inaugurated and is now the President of the United States, with the very first female vice president ever in the history of the United States. And that is an absolutely fabulous thing. So we're looking forward to hopefully new and more positive things to come from that side of the world. Wherever you are in the world, me and my cat are hoping that you are having a wonderful time, are looking after yourselves. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I will be back with you on Friday, and wishing you a very good night. I say bye-bye, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Good night. Bye-bye.